These might be the darkest days for Europe after World War II. The invasion started with Russian military buildup in early 2021, and it was left widely unnoticed until the troop count grew to about 100,000 soldiers with artillery and tanks. The USA warned Ukraine about the coming threat and prepared NATO for a line of defense. People speculated that the invasion could happen somewhere around Valentine's Day, but when Putin met the Chinese president during the Winter Olympics held in Beijing, he requested the invasion after the Olympic Games. And then as the Olympics ended, the next morning started an invasion that would rewrite history and change the world forever. Hi, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we're going to talk about the reasons behind Russia invading Ukraine. So sit back and let us walk you through the reasons why Russia did it. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. We will hold Russia accountable. Joe Biden. With the world sitting on standby as Putin performs a military action on Ukraine, everybody has been on the edge of their seats looking for a way to peace. But Putin is not listening. This eliminates any diplomatic resolutions, and the situation is too far gone for diplomacy. With Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, seeking any help he can get, the world just sits there with hands bound towards the nuclear threat that would destroy the whole planet like Hiroshima. The economy, already ruthlessly sabotaged by COVID-19, would further plummet because of this invasion. Despite various countries imposing sanctions on the country, they're not stopping. We don't know how long this invasion will last, but each hour is more damaging and costs a lot of human lives. The Russians are conducting a Stop the War rally on the streets out of Putin's palace as Putin police arrest them on sight. It will be wrong to call it the Russian police anymore. This modern-day Tsar is trying to be in the history books with his ill deeds. It's been months since Vladimir Putin was lying through his teeth, all the while secretly plotting an invasion and sheepishly stationing troops at the borders of Ukraine. And recently, when everyone in Ukraine was peacefully sleeping, they attacked an innocent country from land, air, and sea. One cannot justify their acts of violence if they're the ones starting it. But why did they attack? For this, let's look at the relationship between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine SSR was a founding member of the Soviet Union in 1922. The country gained their independence about 30 years ago as the Soviet Union fell. Ukraine started struggling as there was internal divisions and they could not combat corruption. Now the western part of Ukraine likes the idea of being with the West, while the eastern side favors close ties with Russia. Now it seems like the former president of Ukraine, Mr. Viktor Yanukovych, was also rooting for Russia, but since then, the violent pro-Russian protesters expelled him. Putin started accusing Ukraine of being taken over by an extremist government and started calling them Nazis. Later that week, Russia attacked and annexed Crimea. Ukraine was weak, they had a temporary government and an unpolished military. Then Putin proceeded towards the Donbas region of the eastern Ukraine, where they had a brief session of combat with armed guns and bombs, with 14,000 people killed during the incident. But Russia denies the Donbas conflict. Now Ukraine's new government announced that during the annexation of Crimea and the Donbas incident, they have been weakened and are choosing to join NATO and the European Union in 2024. Now during 2019, President Volodymyr Zelensky started a campaign for anti-corruption, peace, and economic renewal, and also conducted a survey that resulted in 81% downvotes to Putin and 19% upvotes. Now if Ukraine joins NATO and European Union, then they will become a part of the West as a whole, and there are only about 2 years until that happens. Western countries have imposed sanctions against Russia, and upon joining the European Union, those sanctions will be effective in Ukraine. It has not been much since Ukraine broke away from Russia during the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, and Putin thinks of Ukraine as a territory and not as an independent country, which makes Putin think he owns Ukraine. Putin does not want Ukraine joining hands with NATO and the European Union at any cost, but Putin knows he will lose a lot of things, and there's more to lose than to gain. Well, one more thing about Putin. Tens and thousands of Russian people took to the streets in January 2021 when the political opposition leader Alexei Navalny returned from Germany, where he was admitted for being poisoned by the Russian government. Anyway, Putin knows that this invasion will be more damaging than beneficial. He claims that Ukraine has been sending threats to Russia, and this has jeopardized their sense of peace, safety, and development. While President Zelensky seeks help from the world, this modern-day Hitler called a Jewish man Nazi. Either way, All of his claims are just a vague justification for his horrific acts. He says that his goal is to protect people subjected to bullying and genocide, and aims to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Or maybe he's just referring to Germans at this point, but as far as we can see, there has been no genocide and Ukraine has maintained its democratic integrity. Now, since Putin thinks President Zelensky is a Nazi, Putin's number one target is Ukraine's president, and the second is his family. The false narrative has been in the Russian media for a long time, specifically during the start of 2014. This makes me feel like former President Viktor Yanukovych was a puppet government of the Russians. And now, since he has lost control and things with Ukraine are getting much worse, Putin had to do something to prevent them from joining the European Union. Russia's military action is trying hard to minimize the invasion time, but Ukraine's hostile population is a tough competition. Well, the United Kingdom also accused Moscow of plotting a control over Ukraine through a puppet government, which they denied. But it is sure to see that Putin will split Ukraine in two if he cannot take all of the countries, as we know that in the initial stages Putin was only aiming at the eastern areas of Luhansk and Donetsk, where he also claimed later that he was the one who supported their claims to far more Ukrainian territory. When Putin said that the area controlled by the Russian proxies are independent, he was making it clear that they aren't a part of Ukraine and came forward to claim it. Now Putin is asking Ukraine's army to overthrow their government, saying that they're neo-Nazis, a gang of drug addicts, terrorists. Yeah, he said that, and I'm confused how he came to the conclusion. He just hates President Zelensky for some reason. Maybe it's because he wants Ukraine, and he also fears that the European Union would have easy access to Russian territory through Ukraine. So Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union, and they broke away during the fall in 1991. Now Ukraine was a solo standing country that would join the European Union and NATO soon, but Russia did not like that. Russia is already in a tight spot as they have a lot of sanctions from the West. So Putin had to have reasons to attack the country. He started calling Donetsk and Luhansk independent states and alleged Ukraine of genocide, and then attacked Ukraine on a morning. Now this has been going on since 24th February, so it's almost 3 days. Now the invasion is mainly to reclaim Ukraine, as they think Ukraine is a puppet to the West, and as Ukraine joins NATO, then Russia would have a very hard time adjusting to their new neighbors, and also Putin fears that joining NATO could mean that they could come to annex Crimea back. At this point, it seems like Russia is making excuses to justify their actions, and a nuclear bomb could be in question, so other countries are afraid to intervene. This will be the end, guys. Thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. Comment down below what you think about this invasion and who you support. And we're also open to any suggestions and recommendations. If you haven't yet subscribed, then please consider subscribing, as it would help us grow and bring more insightful content. We'll catch you next time on the channel.